Welcome in to another episode of my Dynasty Fantasy Football YouTube channel. Today, I'm discussing Dynasty rookie sleepers you can add right now. Make sure to like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe if you haven't. 60% of viewers on this channel are not subscribed. Let's change that. Here we go. First player. Carson Steele. Now, I don't think I've talked about Carson Steele on the channel ever, but he's been in the news lately if you've been paying attention to the really deep news. But let's just go into a little bit about what Steele offers as a college prospect, and then we'll get into the news. So he began his college career at Ball State, where he had 192 carries for 891 yards, 6 touchdowns, 4.6 yards a carry, and 12 catches for 157 yards and a touchdown. So solid, but at a smaller school, nothing too impressive. But then 2022, we had a big breakout. 289 carries, 1,556 yards, 14 touchdowns, 5.4 yards a carry, and 29 catches for 166 yards and a touchdown. That's very productive, even at a smaller school. Then he transferred to UCLA, and he was pretty good. 167 carries, 847 yards, 6 touchdowns, 5.1 yards a carry, 17 catches, 163 yards, and 2 touchdowns. And then, interestingly, based on this season, he was pretty young. He just turned 21 during that season, turns 22 early this year. During the season, he decided to declare for the NFL draft, where unfortunately he was not drafted. But the Kansas City Chiefs picked him up as a UDFA. And we know that everyone is obsessed with the Chiefs running back situation. Chiefs have Isaiah Pacheco as their clear starter, and they re-signed Clyde Edwards-Helaire to be their backup. But the RB3 job is wide open. And we know that Carson Steele is impressing in camp. There's been some positive news reports about him. He's ahead of fellow UDFA Amani Bailey, who I talked about on here. And the other guys they have are Deneric Prince, Keontae Ingram. I mean, we know these guys have failed in the past. They released Michael Pirine. And then they have Luis Rees-Zammit. If I could tell people one thing, it's to stop telling me that Luis Rees-Zammit, who is practicing only at returner, is going to be a relevant running back in the NFL, for Dynasty, for fantasy football. That is not going to happen, ever. He's not even practicing with the running back. So please stop telling me that. If you want to stash a running back on the Chiefs, Carson Steele is the one to stash right now. Now, I have him 58th overall in Superflex rookie value. Again, we're talking about someone who's not even a guarantee to do anything at all. But given his college success and the fact that he was an early declare for the NFL draft and the fact that he's on the Chiefs, he's probably on waivers right now. I might go add him, if for nothing. Don't pay anything for him, but I'd add him for nothing. And then in Dynasty, I have him RB88. Again, that's rostered in most leagues. Next up, also in the news lately, Sione Vaki. A lot of people have misconceptions also about Sione Vaki. So let's talk about him as well. So he started his college career as a safety, played in 2022 at Utah as a safety. He went on a mission, missionary trip after high school. So he was an older college player. He only played 2 years in college. In 2022, played as a safety. He didn't play offense. 2023, 42 carries, 317 yards, 2 touchdowns, 7.5 yards a carry, and 11 catches, 203 yards and 3 touchdowns. So a lot of big plays that he offered there. Still played more, I would say, as a safety than as a running back. But the Lions drafted him in the 4th round, 132nd overall, and they announced him as a running back. He has been practicing with the running backs, not the safeties, with the running backs. So he is a running back for them. Now, if he is a running back, which the Lions have been very clear that he is a running back, the Lions' RB3 job is wide open behind Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery. Those are 1 and 2. We know that. Craig Reynolds, who has been meh for years, is the incumbent RB3. Sione Vaki has been impressing at training camp, mini camp, sorry. And then additionally, he was a 4th-round pick. They can't put him on the practice squad. He won't clear waivers. So I do think he makes the team. I mean, he's a 4th-round pick. You would think a 4th-round pick would make the team. And he has an exciting skill set if Jahmyr Gibbs or David Montgomery were ever to get hurt. He could have an opportunity to play in a good offense. And he does have some draft capital. So I have him 54th overall in my Superflex rookie ranks, and at Dynasty RB 84. Unlike some of the other stashes, he's going to make the team. There's no doubt about that. 4th-round picks almost always do. So he'll have at least an opportunity, and he has only practiced with running backs, not with safeties. So for those reasons, definitely a good player. And he is still on waivers in some Dynasty leagues. I've seen him on waivers. Now, if you like my YouTube content, you should sign up for the Patreon. You get my rankings, rookie rankings. You can see this. You can see my Dynasty rankings. You can see redraft rankings. You also get access to the Discord and the ability to ask in advance questions for the YouTube videos, which we'll cover later in this video. Tiers begin at just $6 a month, and it's a great experience. I also just launched a new feature where patrons have the option to buy team breakdowns for their Dynasty rosters. And for now, that's only going to be available to patrons. Might open that up to everybody, but for now, it'll be a patron add-on exclusive. And, you know, I always just appreciate everyone who signs up for the Patreon because it allows me to have independent content on here that's not controlled by any editors or corporate interests who like to sanitize and control content to make it say what they want to say. You know that whatever I'm saying is what I want to say. So my patrons allow me to do that. Next up, our final kind of sleeper player today, Dillon Johnson. So I was kind of surprised Dillon Johnson didn't get drafted. Honestly, I thought he would. And let's look at his college career to show why. 2020, we started off at Mississippi State. Didn't do much. Wasn't all that great. But he did have 36 catches. That's impressive. The rest of it, not so much. 2021, he got a little bit better. 89 carries, 485 yards, 4 touchdowns, 4.5 yards carry is pretty good. 65 catches. You almost never see a college running back with 65 catches. 422 yards and a touchdown. 2022, he moved up to 89 carries, 488 yards. So the same number of carries, 3 more yards, 3 touchdowns, similar yards a carry. 48 catches is again great. And then in 2023, he transferred to Washington, and he was their workhorse running back. 233 carries, 1,195 yards, 16 touchdowns. Solid on the ground. Could have used a little bit more efficiency, but not bad. And 24 catches for 190 yards. So still involved in the passing game. Although we know that Washington had a lot of great wide receivers. So it's not a surprise that he didn't beat out Rome Odunze and Jalen Polk and Jalen McMillan for targets. Now, Johnson went to the Tennessee Titans as a UDFA. And this is kind of a similar situation to he got a huge contract guarantee. But overall, this is kind of similar to the other two situations. Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears are the RB1 and 2. The Titans don't have an RB3. It's Hassan Haskins, who is coming back from legal issues and was gone for all of last year. And then there's Julius Chestnut, who is nothing. So Johnson has an all-round skill set where he would fit in well. They already signed 2 similar players. They had Tony Pollard was not brought in as a complement to Tajay Spears. They were brought in because you could use them interchangeably. Johnson is in that same mold. And I do think he makes the team as the RB3. So I have him 57th overall, just because I think Johnson's slightly more likely to make the team than Carson Steele. I only didn't lead with him in the video because there's really no news about Johnson. The other 2 players have actually been in the news. I've always liked Johnson as a sleeper. And yeah, I have him 1 spot ahead of Steele in both rookie and overall ranks. And keep an eye on him because he's a talented player. And I hope that during training camp, he makes his case for that RB3 slot. Because Tony Pollard, we know, was getting old. Tajay Spears, we know, has 1 ACL. So there could be an opportunity here on this team for someone like Dillon Johnson to get involved. Now, I got some Patreon questions here. 4 of them today. So let's jump into the first one. Who is the most improved NFL offense this year? Well, I think there are 3 that really come up. Let's start with the Atlanta Falcons. They have a new quarterback. So they had the worst quarterbacks last year. Desmond Ridder and Taylor Heineke didn't get it done. Now they have Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix. So Not only have they improved the starting quarterback, they've vastly improved the backup quarterback. Additionally, they have a new coaching staff with Raheem Morris and Zach Robinson as the offensive coordinator. Proven success. And I like what I'm hearing out of Atlanta. I don't like the Michael Penix pick, but you can blame that on the general manager. I like what I'm hearing about the coaching staff. So Atlanta Falcons, clear top choice. The second one, the Colts behind Anthony Richardson. I just think that Gardner Minshew is limited. I don't think you can have, even in the best scenario, better than a league average offense with Gardner Minshew. That's your ceiling. They were not even that. So Jonathan Taylor starts the year healthy. Anthony Richardson is back. They added Adonai Mitchell, which I think is going to take a step forward because they have Michael Pittman. That's good. Great wide receiver one. Good start there. Josh Downs, good slot receiver. Alec Pierce as a deep threat, Z receiver. I'll pass on that. Adonai Mitchell could take their offense to the next level. So I think the Colts are a candidate. And then lastly, of course, the Bears. The Bears, they have Caleb Williams over Justin Fields. They have Rome Odunze. They have Keenan Allen. And they also brought in DeAndre Swift, who I think, while I don't love DeAndre Swift, is an improvement to have him over not having him. So obviously the Bears are on my list. Notable takes. You ended up being spot on in 2023 and tried to warn the people. What take would you suggest people listen to for 2024 to warn the people? So in 2023, I bought into Breece Hall being great despite the injury. Now, why did I do that? It's generally because superstars, the elite of the elite, heal up better than players that are not elite. Like Dalvin Cook of old came back and eventually was elite again. Christian McCaffrey, when he got past the injuries, was elite. TJ Hawkinson, not so much. TJ Hawkinson is not elite. I like him, not elite. I'm very scared because you take a little bit off TJ Hawkinson and it's not as good. So definitely a player I'm fading. There isn't really an elite player I can think of coming back from an injury. Javonte Williams was a fade last year, not elite, coming back from injury. So that's generally a lesson there. Elite players, they might be able to beat the injury recovery. Non-elite players, not so much. Now, also the other one, fading Alexander Madison, bad running back, bad player. We know he's bad. And he had opportunity. He was rising in drafts. This year, that's Zach Moss. I'm sorry. Zach Moss has never been all that great. He was good for a few games. He couldn't even beat out Devin Singletary in Buffalo, who we know is just okay. It's a Mike Davis trap, the Alexander Madison trap. So someone like Zach Moss, just not a player I'm in on this year. What's your rationale for your Justin Fields ranking in Dynasty? I see you have him ranked above some notable players. It's very simple. If Fields ever goes in, he's a quarterback one. It's not maybe. When Fields plays, he's a fantasy quarterback one when playing. I have him quarterback 29 in Dynasty. How much lower could I have him? There's still a path for him to be a starter. It's really hard to have him lower in Superflex. Is Rachaad White going to be Najee Harris 2.0? I see a lot of similarities. There are some similarities. Both players came in the NFL at 23. Neither ever been efficient on the ground in the NFL. The biggest difference is that White is actually a plus in a receiving game. I think he's a good receiver. It's not just volume, which is what Najee Harris had. White is actually a plus as a receiving back. But he's even worse on the ground than Najee Harris. For me, White is someone that really needs to just be mostly in a receiving role and take a lot of the ground carries away. They bought in Bucky Irving. I'm not sure Bucky Irving is the guy that really fits that mold. Someone like Braylon Allen would have made more sense. Someone who could take a lot of carries, but maybe wouldn't be used in the receiving game as much. But I do get the White Najee comparison of volume was king for them, and then volume might disappear and they're not as good. I get that comparison. Now, if you like the video, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment with your thoughts. As always, the best way to support the channel is to subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notifications bell so you can be notified about all my exciting content as it drops. Of course, if you want my best fantasy football advice, it's available on the Patreon. We have Dynasty, Redraft, rookie content like this, Starts It, and more. All of it is covered on the Patreon. And every sign up helps support my independent content, most namely this YouTube channel.